Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to number 34, I guess, July 8th council meeting. The mayor will be with us shortly. It's my privilege to chair until she gets here. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:40, and I'm looking for someone, one of my council colleagues, to read the land acknowledgement. Thank you, Councillor Strachan.
The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous-informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Strachan. And I'll just move on to some brief notices that staff has prepared. The first one regards Heron's Nest Park. We were just there before council meeting, taking some pictures. So we're excited now to officially open Heron's Nest Park in the Temple subdivision at Depensier Drive and Commercial Way. What began last December as a cleared site is now a welcoming new green space for residents to enjoy. Thank you to the community for your patience during construction. This new recreational amenity is a wonderful addition to our growing neighborhoods and a great example of how North Grenville continues to invest in accessible, family-friendly public spaces. And this afternoon was full of kids enjoying it already. Communities in Bloom. North Grenville has launched its third annual Communities in Bloom photo contest, celebrating the theme of edible gardens. Residents are invited to submit photos of local gardens, landscapes, and green spaces by August 15th for a chance to win prizes and be featured in North Grenville's official submission to provincial judges between August 13th and 14th. Other initiatives like Bloom Bingo, Library Gardening Kits, Business Bloom Awards, and Summer Cleanup Week offer even more ways to be involved. County Road 43 public meeting. That's happening on Tuesday, July 15th at 6:30 p.m. in the Municipal Centre Theatre right here for a public meeting on the County Road 43 expansion project. As we know, this project is widening County Road 43, how could we not notice, to 4 lanes, rebuilding the bridge over Kempfell Creek, adding roundabouts, storm sewers, center medians, and multi-use pathways with pedestrian crossings. At the meeting, project leaders and municipal staff will share updates on construction, traffic impacts, and timelines. Residents will have the opportunity to ask questions, review project materials, and connect with the team. Light refreshments will be served. Thank you. And now on to the agenda. Sorry? Yes, that's the next thing. Council has 2 special meetings to report on in this, our open session. The first, the special meeting of council on June 25th, 2025 was held in closed session for the purpose of governance training for council and senior staff. And the second, the special meeting of the council preceding this one, today, July 8th, 2025, focused on providing direction to staff on the procurement of a heavy rescue apparatus and the expression of interest in land owned by the Ministry of Natural Resources. As a result of the heavy rescue apparatus discussion and staff direction, a recommendation for council's consideration has been added under miscellaneous unfinished business for council deliberation this evening. Further, council has also received information on the potential staffing implications of the organizational structure review. That is it. We're moving on to the adoption of the agenda, and it's recommended that the agenda for the regular meeting of council on July 8th be adopted and passed. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder for that item. Councillor O'Sullivan moves, and seconded by Councillor Strachan. Any discussion about the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Great. Next, we move on to declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Do we have any conflicts of interest or Declarations of pecuniary interest? None. Seeing none, thank you. Deputations. So our first deputation is by Emily Farrell, our Chief Executive Officer of the North Grenville Public Library. And she's going to give us a rundown of the highlights over the last year, last 12 months, 24, 25. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor and members of council and those joining us in the audience here and at home. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to be here to speak to the library. I'm especially pleased because right now I'm not here asking you for any money. I'm just here sharing some fun pieces of information about one of your community services and hopefully something that we can all feel very proud of. Next slide, please, Mary. Thank you. So we continued to have a fantastic year in 2024 at the North Grenville Public Library. We continue to have really high attendance at our programs. For every single program that we run, we are averaging about 18 people in attendance. We also had our highest number of visits ever to the library. We did take a bit of a hit over COVID, early pandemic, but we have not only recovered from that, but as I said, are beating all of our previous numbers, which is fantastic. We also, I think some members of council may have already been well aware of this because I feel like I've been saying it every single time I've been at this table, but we had a phenomenal number of new library members, new people joining the library last year. It translated to every 2 hours we were open, we were making a new library card. We ran out and had to reorder at 2 different points, new library cards last year. Next slide, please. Some of the other non-statistically related highlights from the year, we through support from the municipality, we were able to open a musical instrument lending library, which is located on the Kemptville campus. We launched several new programs and services, including a repair cafe with the Bishop's Mills WI and a new seed library. I feel like I have to put a little like asterisk next to that because we are kind of starting to hit our staff capacity for providing programs, but we're doing the best we can. We completed an open hours assessment and a service delivery review where we spoke with the community to see what our community wanted from the library in terms of our open hours. And our service delivery review also measured ourselves up to industry standards for other public libraries to see how we compared. The municipality continues to take very good care of the library space in the downtown. Municipal staff, through capital money, I think, upgraded our lights, and we had a water bottle filling station installed. We also had support from the 100 Women Who Care, North Grenville, and other community members, which helped us do some small facility updates, like refurbishing our comfy chairs. Next slide, please. So how are we doing so far? This has been a year of some changes for us. I would be remiss if I did not mention that, we started the year by unfortunately closing our branch in Burt's Rapids. We are very grateful to the Boathouse Cafe for being able to offer us a space in the community to continue to provide pop-up library service once a week. And we are working with the Boathouse Cafe and the Burt's Rapids Community Association. We're looking into different options for more long-term solutions for continued library service in that community. But we are grateful to be able to, at the minimum, continue to be there once a week at the Boathouse Cafe. Additionally, we started bringing our instruments from the Musical Instrument Lending Library out into the community a little bit more. Our children's programmer is at the Kemptville Youth Center on a regular basis. She brings instruments, and the teens have a chance to have some more exposure to music and education, and they're working towards open mic nights, which will hopefully, I understand they've already had one so far, and hopefully they will have some that will be open to the public, because I would myself love to attend those. They sound like they're a very fun time. We were able, through support from the municipality, we were able to increase our open hours at the Kemptville branch starting in May. We're now open, we have Wednesday nights again, and we're open evenings until 8 p.m. and Saturdays until 3 p.m. These new hours bring us in line with public library industry standards, and also seem, in the few months that we've had them, seem to be the right fit for our community's needs. Finally, we've had some changes in our various agreements. We had a service agreement with the Ottawa Public Library, which has ended this year. However, we have the addition of a new reciprocal agreement with the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library System, which means that all North Grenville residents now have access to the vast resources that are available through the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry Library System. Next slide, please. So some other things to look ahead are that council and the community can expect from us for this year and into the next. We are still expecting to have later this year the results of a facility cost benefit analysis, essentially to help us determine what our facility growth directions need to be. Is it a second floor in the library? Is it more space? Is it additional space? Is it another branch? Is it a bookmobile? I'm not the expert in that. So we will wait to see what those results say. We also have started with our new library strategic plan, and the completed plan is expected for this fall, before the end of the year. Finally, we are hoping to expand our adult and senior programs in 2026, but that will be dependent on a couple of different factors, because as I did mention, we are hitting a bit of a staffing capacity to be able to provide more programs. The interest is there, the program requests are there, our capacity is not currently there. So that's something that I will be working on for 2026. Thank you, everyone, for my very quick presentation, and I welcome any questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ms. Farrell. I think it's pretty impressive, the breadth and scope of your programming, and I understand that that would challenge staff going forward, but that's a nice problem to have, I think, in a way. And congratulations on the partnerships that you've managed to form to get library books to Burritts Rapids. The partnership is coming with Burritts Rapids Community Association, or you're planning to reach out to them?
We've already started conversations.
Okay.
We're kind of hoping to see what the results of the facility cost benefit analysis say before we make any firm commitments. We want to make sure that we're not setting something up when in reality we need to be moving in a slightly different direction.
So that cost benefit analysis, that strategic planning going forward would be looking at possibility, I guess one of the things they'd be looking at is satellite library services, so Burritts Rapids, possibly the former Township Hall in Oxford Mills, where the library used to be.
It could be, it could be.
Okay, I'm just planting a seed, that's all.
I wouldn't say no to it.
Congratulations with your agreement with SDG and their whole collection. Their resources beyond books, what else can they provide you?
They also have a recreation collection and musical instruments. I like to think that we have a very excellent collection of musical instruments, but they have, simply because it serves all three of those townships, they just have quantities that we cannot hold in our collection. And they also have the ability to have kind of back collection items and some recreation items that we maybe can't fit on our shelves as well. They also have maker spaces. Our residents would have to go to their branch, but if any resident wants to be able to use a 3D printer, we don't currently have the space at our branches to do that, but they could go to an SDG branch and use it there.
Yeah, I must say the music instrument lending library is probably the one that appeals to me most, and congratulations on that, for sure. Any other questions from council colleagues? Yes, Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Emily. I think it's great that you managed to get a partnership with the Boathouse in Burt's Rapids. I'm just wondering, what are you able to provide then on your limited location and limited timing there? Can you have computers and internet for people? I know that Burt's Rapids has notably have had problems with good internet connections, so I'm just wondering if that's available for people at the pop-up, and a limited collection of books, or do they order the books and then you bring them? Just how is it working out?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to Councillor O'Sullivan. So we provide a select collection. Some of our staff who have more experience with Burt's Rapids residents curate that. The Boathouse Cafe has free Wi-Fi already, so we do not need to provide that. That's provided by Marianne, the owner. We do not at this time have hold pickup. We've only had it requested, so we've been providing pop-up library service since the beginning of January. We've only had it requested once. If we see those requests increase, it is something that we would consider offering, but the demand simply hasn't been there. So it is mostly browsing. People are welcome to return books. And we are, if the demand is there, we also would be interested in looking at some mechanism for book drop-off outside of the hours that we are there for the pop-up. So people can come anytime when they're stopping by, to make it a bit easier.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Great. Well, thanks for that. That was a great information, good news kind of report. I'm sure you enjoyed delivering something like that. And we'll see you come budget time. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on, we're into the consent agenda. And the following items have been presented for us to approve moving on consent. So I'll ask my council colleagues, is there any item that they'd like to remove? Councillor Strakian.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to have item G2, the ACE agreements, removed from the consent agenda, please.
Okay. That's G2, right? Right, okay. Anything else, council? Okay. So be it resolved that the following consent agenda items be approved as following. Ms. Janot, can you help me out with the very first one? I don't want to butcher that. What's the first one?
Minot Chagak Imtigwake.
Minoj Janak,
Minot Chagak Imtigwake.
the grant, okay. And confirmation bylaw in a closed meeting June 25th that I spoke to briefly at the opening, and the confirmation bylaw of our closed meeting or special meeting tonight. So those three items will be approved. So we're looking for someone to move that resolution. Councillor Starkian and seconder. Councillor O'Sullivan. Any discussion about those three items going to consent? None? Okay. I'll call the vote. Come on down. All in favor? So, Mary, following that resolution. Do we go immediately into the consent agenda items?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, what we would do is address it in the order in which it is shown on the consent agenda. Given that it's the only item pulled, we can address it immediately following the consent vote.
Did you want to chair? Come in the chair. We're at a hot item, I think, the ASE. Yeah, okay. All right. So let me read that recommendation. That council enact bylaw number 58-25 being a bylaw to authorize the municipal clerk to enter into agreements necessary to facilitate the implementation of an automated speed enforcement program. So I'll be looking for someone to move and someone to second it so that we can get it on the table. Looking for a mover. Councillor Wilson and a seconder. Okay, so now we are going to discuss that item. And it's been suggested that we break it down into 3 separate motions. And I'll go to you, CAO. Can you articulate those 3 separate motions, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to this specific agreement, the ASC, we have authorization to enter into the agreement, which was previously approved at another council meeting. The recommendation that you see before you is in regards to the entering into the regulatory agreements. We need to enter into agreements with the Ministry of Transportation for access to ARIS, which is the licensing component, the Joint Processing Center, as well as the last one, which the name has currently escaped me, so give me 1 second. It's called the Ministry of Attorney General, sorry. So those 3 agreements, regulatory in nature, need to have authorization to enter into to move us forward. This recommendation in front of you also left open if there were any other necessary agreements. But with 3 presented to you this evening, we could at least proceed with forward momentum and report back in August should there be any other items that need to be considered. So we have those 3 regulatory agreements that need to be entered into soon.
Just to be, for my clarification, those 3 agreements, one would be with the Ministry of Transportation, Ontario, the other would be with the Ministry of Attorney General, and the third would be the Joint Processing Center. Okay? Yes. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for chairing in this moment. Certainly, I feel that it would be helpful to me, given the conversations I've had in my capacity as a board member with Good Roads and in the context of conversations many of us have had with Good Roads, to have more insight into the nature of those agreements. I understand that they are with various ministries, but I was led to believe through conversations with other municipalities that there are many sub-agreements, if you will, that inform how automated speed enforcement comes into the municipality. I don't see any of that detail this evening. I understand that agreements have to be entered into, but I would be looking for far more insight into the substance, the nature of those agreements before proceeding. So I'm inclined to say that perhaps we defer this item unless there's someone at the staff level who can speak to the specificity of the agreements in question.
So what we're entertaining right now is an amendment to the resolution that I read to lay out those 3 different agencies, that those 3 different agreements. So I'll go to the CAO, since you asked, for some clarification about a sense of urgency for some of these agreements going forward versus maybe ones that we can defer to a later date to get more detail. So, Ms. Dunlop?
Thank you. Yes, the 3 regulatory agreements with MTO, the JPC, and the MAG are just standard templates. They do not speak to things such as threshold, to the warning periods, to any of those other items, which we can bring back and discuss, save and accept the threshold, because that's not a public item that will be out there. But warning, how long of a regulatory waiting period we want to have, we can bring those things back. The other or more template-style agreements for access. MTO, the agreement would be for things such as provides our joint processing center as well as the municipality access to license plate and the privacy information that would be attached to those for our screening officers, et cetera. And the Attorney General one is for the regulatory requirement for the operation of an ASE. So I think the concerns are in regards to some of the more interpretive components of an ASE. Is it a 30-day warning? Is it a 60-day warning? Is it a 90-day warning versus a 30 days when we start sending out tickets? Those things we can bring back because they're outside the specific 3 regulatory agreements.
I do have a follow-up.
Yeah, go
at your
ahead.
discretion.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
So perhaps, and I appreciate that additional context, Ms. Dunlop, but just to be clear, is it possible to attach the agreements or share them with council if they're simply templates and there's really nothing material other than entering into the agreement? Are you suggesting that things like the warning period are not embedded in these agreements? Have you seen a copy of the agreements? Is there anyone this evening here at a staff level that can speak to the agreements?
Ms. Dunlop, go ahead.
Through you, Chair. No, we do not have anyone that speaks to this item specifically. It was an item on consent. We had not anticipated it being pulled, so unfortunately I did not. But I can see if I can get copies of the agreements to council. Time is of the essence to try to keep the ASE momentum moving forward. It is up to 90 days once these agreements are signed. We're hoping for a smaller period of time, but we are 3 to 6 months before the first ticket can, in essence, be written.
I have a question. These variables or these points such as warning period, are they embedded in one or all of the 3 agreements? Do you know?
Through you, your Chair, it is my understanding they're not embedded within these agreements. These are information and access style agreements.
But we've got 3 separate agreements. Surely one of them deals with some of the finer details.
These are agreements with other ministries, as well as the Joint Processing Center, which basically is, as I said, moving forward, getting us access to things like provincial driver's license and the background information of addresses, et cetera. So it does not go into that specific detail, but I can get the templates and circulate to council. I just don't want to delay, if time is of the essence, to get them moving forward for their signature.
So, Madam Mayor, we've got a mover and a seconder for the resolution as I read it. Are you suggesting an amendment to that, or are you suggesting a deferral?
My question was whether or not these could be better described a week from now, once there's the benefit of a little more lead time and Ms. Dunlop has the opportunity to actually review the agreements. But I'm one member of council, so certainly it may be the will of council to advance things this evening. I also wanted to ask about the delegation of authority through the clerk's office and whether or not it's better to have the delegation through the CAO, given that it seems to be a multifaceted process and she's having to work with multiple departments. And I know our clerk's office is very constrained right now, working extremely hard to meet fundamental commitments. So I'm curious about that piece of it as well.
So possibly amending the resolution to authorize the CAO rather than the clerk? Would that be an
I would
amendment?
defer to Ms. Dunlop, but it would be a question I would have given the nature of the agreements.
If I may, Mr. Chair and Councillor Strachan, I have provided the clerk with an amended version which identifies those 3 specific agreements, as well as delegating authority to the CAO. If it is the wish of council, we can read that out.
Councillor Strachan, I saw your hand up.
Through Deputy Mayor to the CAO, you've said that time is of the essence. Is it a rush to complete the signing of these contracts, or is it simply that that's the clock starts and it's 3 to 6 months to till we could have a first ticket issued?
Ms. Dunlop?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the clock starts ticking once these agreements. We have to have the ARIS, or we have to have the MTO and the MAG and the JPC before we can get moving in regards to the processing. And it has nothing to do with, again, how long the warning period is, the thresholds, et cetera, which we can bring back, save and accept the threshold to this table in August, if that is the
Okay.
will of council.
So the timeline that you're speaking of is a self-imposed, we want to get this done faster, as opposed to if we don't get these contracts signed, that something disappears from our ability to go forward. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, who moved this originally?
Councillor Wilson is who we have documented as moving this.
Okay, so Councillor Wilson, I'm going to read a suggested amendment. I don't know if I can make the suggested change or not. If I'm in the chair, can I suggest a change, an amendment? If Councillor
As the
Wilson
chair,
accepts,
you may,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay. So I have a suggested amendment or friendly amendment to Councillor Wilson, that council enact bylaw number 58-25, being a bylaw to authorize the chief administrative officer to enter into regulatory agreements with MTO, the Ministry of Attorney General, and the Joint Processing Center necessary to facilitate the implementation of an automated speed enforcement program. So that, would you agree to that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
I'll agree to it. Thank
Okay.
you. The only
right.
reason that I raised my hand was to get it on the floor for discussion. Thank you.
Well, we have a choice of either amending that motion or suggesting a entirely different motion and defeating the original motion, as I understand it. So I'm suggesting an amendment at this point. And if Councillor Wilson is in agreement, do we need the agreement of the seconder? Do we need the agreement of the seconder? If Councillor Wilson accepts it as a friendly amendment?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. So if we want to treat this as a friendly amendment instead of a formal amendment, I would suggest that both the mover and the seconder agree to the amendment to the original motion.
And just please remind me who seconded it.
I have documented Councillor Doreen O'Sullivan.
Yeah? Okay. Any comment on this friendly amendment from anyone else?
I just
Madam Mayor?
I just wanted to seek clarity. I know that, Ms. Dunlop, you continue to say that thresholds, of course, can't be in the public purview for obvious reasons. Certainly, our conversations at Good Roads suggested that it can be a matter of closed council session. Obviously, we don't want to concede what the thresholds are. So I think perhaps if you could bring that update in August, really outlining where the relevant points are for a council staff discussion, I think that would be exceedingly valuable. I certainly don't need to insist on deferral, and I understand that efforts are being made to help us better understand the nature of the agreements. So I just want to say that I'm supportive of the amendments. I know that staff are working really hard to get us to the finish line on this one, but I remain interested in where there will be some shared decision-making when it comes to how it's actually rolled out.
Okay. Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to, I guess, Ms. Dunlop. A couple of questions and a comment. First of all, the whole purpose of this is road safety and improved traffic driving habits so that people are driving within the speed limit. So I'm wondering, where is this, where, I know it can only be in a community safety zone, so where is it going to be? Is it going to be in all 3 community safety zones or move around? That's one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the regulatory requirement is that it is in community safety zone or a school zone. The only location under municipal jurisdiction is Concession Road, so near the school zone at South Branch and North Grenville District High School. We are in discussion, so I have, and Madam Mayor have been in discussions with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville Manager of Engineering as well as their CAO to get this moved forward to other community safety zones as an option under United Counties of Leeds and Grenville jurisdiction. So at this point in time, our only option is Concession Road.
Okay. The other comment I have is I believe that this is only going to target the vehicle owner because it's by license plate, which may not change the driving habits of the person who's driving because they are not the ones who get this ticket. So that's maybe a bit of a downfall to the whole program. The other thing is we have other safety zones that traffic and speed is a problem, and I'm wondering, can we move forward with other traffic calming measures on those, in those areas? For example, line painting, the center line and the two lines on the side of the road has been, I believe, effective on Wellington Road, for example, as well as the delineators and the signs in the middle and bollards on the sides of the road as well. So I'm just wondering, can we put, since the goal here is road safety, putting other traffic calming measures in place on those other sections.
Ms. Dunlop?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in regards to municipal jurisdiction roads, they are an option. We are in constant discussion with United Counties of Leeds and Grenville in regards to their jurisdiction roads and traffic calming, as well as pedestrian and active transportation. So they are constant conversations. If you wish, we can have a conversation offline in regards to which specific areas that you're referring to, and we can determine the jurisdiction. I know that the Public Works Department is under assessment for a couple other areas under municipal jurisdiction, and we have recently had conversations with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and the board in regards to Holy Cross School as well.
Okay, thank you. I think, yeah, I'd like to pursue that conversation offline. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments before I read the friendly amendment to the resolution that was forwarded or moved by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor O'Sullivan? Any other comments or?
For
Go
which
ahead,
there has
Madam
been
Mayor.
amendments. So we're discussing the amended motion, is that right? Chair?
I'm about to read the amended motion, and but I'm just asking if there's any other conversation or discussion. No? Okay. So, the friendly amendment reads as follows: that council enact bylaw number 58-25, being a bylaw to authorize the chief administrative officer to enter into regulatory agreements with the Ministry of Transportation Ontario, Ministry of the Attorney General, and the Joint Processing Centre necessary to facilitate the implementation of an automated speed enforcement program. And it's already been moved and seconded. And so if there's no other discussion, I'll call the vote. Sorry, there's one last word from Councillor O'Sullivan.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I did have a question I meant to ask. This says it's for 3 years. So are we considering this a 3-year pilot project and then assess it? Or are we going to assess it perhaps at 6 months or 1 year along the way and see if it's effective?
Ms. Dunlop?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's the term of the current agreement. It's not a pilot. It is an implementation. 3 years is the end of the current contract.
So will we do an assessment, say 6 months or a year down the road?
Through you, Mr. Chair? Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was about to call the question. I'll do that now. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to reports. Ms. Chanot, you've got something for us. The NG Transit update. And
Yeah.
more good news. We've had good news from Ms. Farrell. Now we get good news from you.
Of course, yes. We'll start with transit tonight. So good evening, council. I'll just give Mary a second to pull up the slides. But tonight I will be providing an update on NG Transit and the exciting commuter service expansion. So next slide, please. Thank you. Since NG Transit launched in January 2024, we have had great success with quite a strong ridership over the past several months. In order to serve riders better, the need for a second vehicle was identified in late fall last year when we received our 6-month review. In the fall of 2024, around the same time, the province announced the Ontario Transit Investment Fund, which aims to connect communities via transit. We were successful in securing funding for a second vehicle that will operate as a commuter service in the morning and early evening to the Limebank LRT station and operate as a second on-demand vehicle during the day. Next slide, please, Mary. So some details on the expansion. We will be looking to procure tonight, if council allows, a 16-passenger vehicle. We received one bid during the procurement process. Staff were satisfied with the bid and the vehicle can be delivered immediately. Originally, when we went to tender, we were expecting at least a 6-month delivery, so this was quite a nice surprise. Staff recommend purchasing the vehicle from Girardin at the cost of $155,500. We had included a budget line for this item of $180,000 with 50% funding from the OTIF, so that brings us under budget. We proposed 2 runs in the morning and 2 in the evening, and the attached document included in the report shows a detailed timeline. One tweak we have made since I posted this schedule was moving the first run from 6:30 a.m. start to 6:25 a.m., and that's just to give us a bit more wiggle room in case things are running behind. Staff will closely monitor how the schedule works for riders following launch and make any adjustments as needed. We are also suggesting maintaining the same fare structure for the commuter service. A one-way fare would be $5, and riders could access the same discounted fares such as a monthly pass and 10-ticket bundles. Following council approval tonight, we will also have discussion with OC Transpo about any possible fare integration. After discussions late last week with our providers, we are aiming currently for a mid-September launch of the commuter service. Currently, the biggest risk to this timeline is finding qualified drivers. As we will be using a bigger vehicle, we will need drivers with an E, F, C, or B license, so if you know anyone, please send them our way. Next slide. Sorry. In addition to the commuter service, we have also been approached by Merrickville-Wolford to see if NG Transit could connect to their community. Staff believe with the second vehicle, this could be accommodated. We would propose 2 stops, one at County Road 43 and County Road 23, and a stop in Merrickville Village. Merrickville-Wolford would pay for the cost of any ride with a stop in their community. For example, we would take the cost of the service for the month, divide it by the number of riders to get the cost per ride. We would then calculate how many rides had at least one stop in Merrickville-Wolford and multiply that by the cost per ride. There will also be a small fee for setting up the stops in the Blaze system, and we would expect Merrickville-Wolford to pay for this as well. Should council pass the motion tonight to have staff continue the discussion of expanding to other communities, we will work with Merrickville-Wolford staff, who will bring a report to their council for approval. If approved by that council, we would then work on executing an agreement for which we would bring it back to this table for approval. Next slide, please. We have also been approached by the River Route, which runs along the St. Lawrence corridor between Brockville and Cardinal for preliminary discussions. Staff recommend continuing the discussions after the commuter service has been operational for several months before moving ahead. That concludes my presentation tonight, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Janot. Questions from members of council? Madam Mayor.
And again, I express my appreciation to you for chairing tonight's meeting.
Seeing you with that monitor.
So through you, Chair, to Ms. Jeannot, I know of course, it's very good news and we're quite excited. And I understand that I had this discussion with yourself and the CEO in regards to the capacity on the commuter bus into the city of Ottawa. We know we have hundreds, if not thousands of commuters into the city of Ottawa. Obviously, we're so blessed to have received some significant funding, and I think it's important to better understand whether or not there's any exploration of the incremental cost to moving to a bus with effectively more capacity. I understand that from what I recall that there's a different licensing requirement, so it adds some complexity. But my concern about our investment in a commuter service is I would have a feeling we're going to max out pretty quickly, and then we're serving a very small minority of commuter bus users. And that obviously, while that's great if we get that sort of demand, which I think we can anticipate, I do worry about further expansion to potentially respond to that demand.
Ms. Jeannot?
Through you, Chair. So we did consider a variety of sizes of vehicles when we were putting in the application back in the fall. We felt that given the majority of this vehicle will be used for the on-demand service, and currently we only have about 1.5 passengers on board at any given time. We did feel that sticking with the smaller vehicle would be the best approach. The next kind of size vehicle option would be 30-32 minimum. So that is quite a larger vehicle to be running for potentially 14 hours a day.
So if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
So your lens was, and this makes sense to me, your lens was more how to best serve the community outside of the service we're providing at the front end of the day and the back end of the day into and from the LRT station in Ottawa. Is that correct?
Through your worship, correct. We thought it would be the most efficient for the service as it currently stands. I don't completely outrule that should we see great success and every seat is booked all the time on the service, that perhaps we look at expanding the vehicle. I think there's some options there.
And if I could just, and from when you say options, Ms. Jeannot, are you talking, obviously you know that certainly there's a discrete amount of funding available through the province and the federal government for these capital investments. So when you say you think there may be options, are you aware of other funding opportunities that we could leverage should we want to further expand the commuter service?
Through you, Chair. So I see it through two options. One, we still do have our Rural Transit Solutions Funds application outstanding. So that is through the federal government, which is essentially a duplicate of this application, but we also included another vehicle that would be for medical or accessible medical transport. And then as well, we could always look at, selling the vehicle and upgrading to a larger vehicle. There is quite a good pipeline through, the various transit agencies in Ontario and even some of our neighboring provinces to kind of look at trading off vehicles. So I think there's always options.
Just to follow up, I probably know the answer to this question, but there's no standing room only on 60. Okay, all right. But what I'm hearing is that should 6 months in, we have the scenario where it's booked solid in the morning and the afternoon, that we have the potential for other funding and potential to pick up a third bus as well. Is that correct?
Through your worship, correct. I think the funding would be a great opportunity, and should that not become available, then we could look at perhaps trading in the vehicle or switching it with another community.
Councillor Strakian.
Thank you. Through Deputy Mayor, thank you, Ms. Jeannot, for the report. I think it's been a great service. So I want to start off by saying that. I guess I have a couple of questions regarding the addition of the connector vehicle that would get folks into Ottawa, presumably for work, and bring them back home. The departure to second time that uses in your morning route would depart North Grenville at 7:40, arriving at Lion Bank at 8:10, and then if you were to go into downtown, it would get you into downtown around 9 o'clock. I don't can't say with certainty who the majority of the passengers would be, but I would say there would be a large number that would be federal public servants. And I think a 9 o'clock start is likely to be very late for most of them. So I'm not sure if you have any comments about how those times were chosen. But personally speaking, from my own perspective, going in the 6:30 would be the only option for me as a federal public servant. So that's the first comment/question that I have. The second one is regarding the 16-seater. Currently, if you're trying to book closer to your departure time, it is very hard to find times, especially during peak hours, but generally throughout the day, I think it's very hard to find a seat on the current smaller bus if you're booking, say, the day before. Was there any thought given to giving preferential routing to the 16 bus within North Grenville to maybe alleviate some of that pressure for those last minute bookings? I think I've had the experience, and my kids have had the experience, that we've had to make alternate arrangements because there was just no possibility of taking the bus. So it sort of has had a reverse effect on when we can book, because not everything is planned 2 weeks ahead of time. So I'm not sure if any thought was given to that. And thirdly, finally, related to the vehicles and, possibly expanding, did we look at any lease options as potential ways to do this, or would that not allow us to use the funding that we have available? Thank you.
Ms. Chenot?
Through you, Chair. So to your first question about the schedule, so we were trying to aim for either that kind of 8 o'clock start or that 9 o'clock start, and just given how the schedule, how long it takes to drive between the two areas, this is as tight as we could make it, trying to aim for those timelines. In terms of the vehicle, in terms of the capacity for the on-demand service, I'm not quite sure what you mean, but the two vehicles will be operating during the commuter times as an on-demand option.
Yes, I guess to clarify that, the current bus, we have seats 6.
Yep.
Okay. So if you try and book today for tomorrow, your chance of getting a seat on that bus can be challenging at many hours. If we had a 16-seater bus that was given for commuting within North Grenville, then you've gone from 6 seats to 16 seats that you have available. So whether or not, instead of having that bus be the one that could run to Merrickville, for example, which could have many rides, but maybe initially would not. But knowing that there's a pressure within North Grenville already, is there any thought given to making that the bus that stays within North Grenville?
Through your worships, or through you, Chair. There are a couple options. So there are a few ways we can operate the system. Really, the challenge we see with the rejection of rides is the location of the rides. Not necessarily that there's too many people on the bus at one time. It's just the sheer size of the community and trying to serve both urban and rural residents. So we can either we can assign each vehicle to a certain area, or we can just let it do its algorithms and assign as best as it sees fit. So there are a couple options in how we operate that, and we can change depending on the patterns we're seeing on where the trips are originating and going to. And your third question about the leasing, no, we could not lease because of funding requirements. It had to be a capital purchase.
Just to follow up on Councillor Strachan's question, it would be a dispatch decision, wouldn't it, about which bus would pick up people? Like, if all of a sudden they had bookings for 10 people going to Merrickville for whatever reason, the dispatch would send the 16-seater during the day versus the 8-seater, I guess it is, or 10-seater?
Through you, Chair. So the Blaze system would be the one assigning as it sees fit. And so it's not necessarily dispatch, but the system.
So it would be optimized. We would optimize the spaces available. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To Ms. Janot, again, one other question, because I can't recall. The previous ATS busing system, what were their departure times in the morning when they were driving downtown?
That's a good question. I don't know them off by hand, but I can definitely go back and reference them and provide that to council afterwards.
I would think it might be useful to understand that, because I know that they were well used, and if we had something similar in mind for the timings, I understand that you can only get back and forth so quickly. 30 minutes could potentially be tight. Right now there's construction. You have to take a detour to get to Lime Bank. So, your 30 minutes is maybe going to be even tighter in the winter. There'd be possible changes there as well. The other thing would be to, instead of leaving at 6, leaving at 6:30, leaving at 6 a.m. So I don't know what ATS did, but it might be worthwhile looking at a comparison there, and, so you're having some like data. Yes, it was pre-COVID, but it would maybe be useful. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Given this would be a new bus, a new service that we're providing, at what point would you come back to council with an interim report about where we stand in terms of the use of this second bus?
Through your worship, through you, Chair. As you know, we do provide council a monthly update, so we would continue to do that with the launch of the new service, and we could even, as we did at the start of service, do it weekly for the first several weeks, so you're kind of getting an idea of how well the commuter service is being provided. In terms of a report to council, we'd be happy to provide that the 3 and 6 month mark, if that is to your wish.
I think it would be a good idea right off the top, since what we're recommending tonight is just the fare increase, having staff, explore some of these partnerships with Merrickville, et cetera, and the purchase of this vehicle, that it would be good to come back with some sort of report at the 3 or the 6 month, so that we can provide more direction in terms of the use of the service. Okay, great. Yes, Madam Mayor.
I just had one other point of inquiry. I'm pleased to see that other communities are taking note of our transit service, and I understand the need for, or the appetite on the part of Merrickville to potentially serve its residents through our service. And I recognize that the costing is the costing that you're proposing through Chair to Ms. Jeannot is for the actual expense of operating the service, not just the fare that would be paid by the passenger. I believe that if we were to move in the direction of a service agreement with Merrickville, we would have to very closely monitor how that would work, because clearly we are potentially deploying buses sort of to the west in ways that ultimately could mean that we're not of service to the community as a whole to the same extent. So I just want to say, because I understand that you're asking for direction for Merrickville's council to enter into an agreement, but we don't know what the purposes of that agreement are beyond what you've described tonight. And I think it's interesting to pursue this potential collaboration, but I would do it with extreme caution. So I just wanted to provide that feedback this evening, because I wouldn't want to see an agreement come back to council that says for 2 years we're going to service or be in partnership with Merrickville-Wilford without the benefit of really seeing what the impact would be. So perhaps something like a pilot would allow the municipality to fully assess, like, is it working to the benefit of our residents and the region as a whole, before we would solidify something longer term. So, Chair, I just wanted to highlight that. I also saw Ms. Jeannot's reference to the river route, and preceding North Grenville's engagement with an on-demand transit service, there were multiple attempts to have the river route look at North Grenville, sort of identify it as a possible area of expansion. Obviously, that hasn't happened. They are also, in fact, I think they're more subsidized by the province than we are. So I would hope that any collaboration with River Route would be realistic about the degree to which they're very well funded in a way that maybe we're not to the same extent, but they've had a longer history. So again, as you navigate those waters, just because I interact with the mayors from the neighboring municipalities for the River Run route, I'd be happy to provide some more information about what I learned in the early days of our conversations. And this certainly preceded even our rural transit study from going forward.
Thank you. Along those lines, now that our bus service is going beyond the borders of North Grenville, there's obviously some opportunities to encourage day tripping from Ottawa residents to come down in the morning and return in the afternoon. But the discussions with Marrickville as they go forward, I'm not sure how this could be done, but could Marrickville residents pay a premium so that we continue to provide a service really weighted for North Grenville residents? In other words, I'm not sure how we would do it with the commuter service, but certainly a service to Marrickville, if it was an additional $1, that would, I think, appease residents of North Grenville who are paying for the service. I would suggest that, and maybe even, I don't know how to characterize this in a amendment to the resolution, but the second point, to set the commuter service to $5 for one-way trip for North Grenville residents, and just leave it open that way. We'd get into trouble with the commuter service because who knows who we're picking up. Hopefully, tourists with lots of money in their pockets, but it's a consideration as you start to talk to Marrickville. It's a consideration, I think, out of respect for the ratepayers here in North Grenville. Go ahead, Mr. Junot.
Through you, Chair, I think if council would like to see that kind of arrangement, maybe identify those parameters tonight, because I'm sure if I go back to Marrickville Wilford and say, it's up to you, do you want to see a premium? They would likely say no. So just before we come back here, if they agree to moving forward, just might be a good idea to get some ideas on the table.
Yes, before I go to Councillor Strachan, it's just something for your consideration. I'm not suggesting necessarily that we do amend the resolution as it's been read, but go ahead, Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would suggest that we do consider that this evening because the cost of NG Transit isn't covered by the fares. So the ratepayers in North Grenville are paying for this in another way, whether they use the system or not. And Marrickville Wolford would not be. So I think a premium charge, not asking Marrickville Wolford if they would like to pay more, because that's an obvious answer, but simply stating that that's the fact, that they would be getting a service without any additional tax. So they're, that they're ratepayers or taxpayers within Marrickville Wolford, and another $1. I think, something along those lines would probably be very reasonable to request.
So are you suggesting that we amend the recommendation to include $5 for North Grenville residents? Is that something you're suggesting?
I would say that the $5 that currently applies to North Grenville would remain, and that a higher rate would be set for non-North Grenville residents.
You know?
Through your worship, through you, Chair, just to clarify, so we probably can't say for Marrickville residents, but we can say for the stops, for any rides that have a stop in Marrickville. And that would just be based on how the system works. The only thing I would ask is clarity on if you would want them to also pay a higher 30-day pass fee and higher 10-ticket bundle fee, because all those are tied together.
Councillor Strachan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To Ms. Junot, I think that it would apply to any of the rates, that they would all be higher. I think if it's a limitation of Blaze and of the system that we cannot identify where the pass is coming from, for example, or based on their user profile, then I think that that's challenged, because I wouldn't want, well, I guess they're going a greater distance, but then the same case could be made for going to the LRT station as well, that we would be charging extra for North Grenville residents who are already paying the tax portion as well. So I don't think I'm in favor of increasing the rates for North Grenville residents, even if they are going to Marrickville. So I think it's challenging, and I don't know, if Blaze can't do it, then we may be stuck with one option only, or one option for everyone, regardless of where they live. But if there was a way to accommodate that, I think that would be ideal.
A question, Ms. Junot. Can it not be based on the user profile rather than the stops? In other words, you know, if Merrickville residents register for the service, then they would pay an increased charge.
Through you, Chair, it's not something we've investigated, but I can certainly look into it if it's possible. The only problem I could see is all the 700 current registrants have never identified themselves as such, so we would have to update all their profiles in case someone does live in Merrickville, because currently anyone can use the service.
Councillor Strakian?
I think, through Deputy Mayor to Ms. Junot, I think that the conversation about what rate would be set for Merrickville, Wolford, or even leaving it more generic as those who are outside, residents outside of North Grenville may have to be discussed when we have more information about what Blaze can accommodate, and so on.
So, can you take that as direction, or do we have to change the resolution? Ms. Dunlop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation or the action moving forward is that to direct staff to discuss expanding the NG service into other communities. What I'm hearing is direction that you're looking as a council for a higher per ticket cost. I think that the adding it into this specific direction would be beneficial.
So something along the lines of the council, finally, council direct staff to discuss expanding NG Transit service to other communities at a premium price? Okay, I'm going to recognize Councillor Strakian and then the clerk.
Deputy Mayor, I think the second line would also need to be amended, that council directs staff to set the commuter service fare to $5 for one way for North Grenville residents, to be precise, because that's the one that we are keeping at $5 and the other ones would be up for deliberation. So just to make sure that we're being specific.
Who moved? Who is the mover on this resolution? Did we? We haven't yet. Okay. Okay. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I did have suggested wording that I thought council might be interested in. It did include Councillor Strackerjan's suggestion to have the commuter service fare to $5 for one way for North Grenville residents, subject to amendments by council. But just to read it in full, the amended motion I have here, that council award NG CS 25-01 transit vehicle tender to Jaredin, anyways, in the amount of $155,500, excluding HST, and council directs staff to set the commuter service fare to $5 for one way for North Grenville residents. The council directs staff to discuss expanding NG Transit services to other communities, and that council directs staff to identify a commuter service fare premium for stops and/or users, caveat depending on what we can accommodate outside of the geographic area of North Grenville. Just to add, in order for the municipality to enter into a contract with another community, such as municipality of Merrickville Wolford, we would have to come back to council in order to enter into that contract. So we would be able to provide council with more information at that time if necessary.
Okay, that's great. Would you like to move that? Thank you. Councillor Strakian. And seconded? Councillor O'Sullivan. Okay, so now we can discuss it. Madam Mayor.
Yeah, well, I wonder if an interim report might be helpful. I know that you're seeking general direction this evening, but I think there is some pieces of the puzzle here that aren't clear to us. When we discuss how Merrickville would compensate North Grenville for servicing their residents, I understand that they would be looking at is it a $39 fee per resident for the subsidy they would provide so that Merrickville residents could access the service? Did I read that correctly? No.
Through your worship, so how Through you, Chair, to your worship, how it would work, we would essentially take the monthly bill for the entire service, both the commuter service and the on-demand service. We would divide that by the number of rides per month. We would then take that number and multiply it by the number of rides that had a stop in Merrickville. So for example, if 20 stops happened in Merrickville that month, they would pay that times the cost per ride. So the more people that ride, the lower the cost per ride. The more people that ride from Merrickville, the higher the cost they'll pay. Hopefully that provides clarity.
So it's based on volume more than it is the cost of servicing residents, whether they're in North Granville or Merrickville. Okay, so that helps me understand the rationale for the premium. Thank you. That being said, I know that obviously, again, you could come back with a fully articulated contract, but it sounds like an interim report would certainly help council better understand the longer term impacts and implications. So perhaps after some exploratory conversation and with the direction we're providing tonight, even in advance of a full agreement, should we get there, bringing some additional information to council might help to further guide the relationship that we may or may not solidify when it comes to how the service is deployed outside of our borders. So it's in favor of the motion, generally speaking, but I know by the time we get to a contract, often it feels like there's very little margin to maneuver because a lot of the heavy lifting's been done, which is why I think an interim report in advance of any contractual agreement with the Council of Merrickville-Wolford might be valuable.
So something along the lines of the last line, that council directs staff to discuss expanding NG Transit service to other communities and to return to council at a 6-month or
I
return
would
to
say with
council
an
before-
interim report in advance of any contracts being generated.
Generated, right. Okay. Do you want to capture that? We can.
If I might, it just gives staff another opportunity to touch base with us on
Yeah.
the status of the conversation, and are we at a place where it makes sense to continue, right, with the possibilities of servicing those outside of North Granville?
And is that something, Ms. Dunlop, that would happen in closed, since it's a negotiation?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would think that it is a contract negotiation, depending on the term that would come back from staff. Yes, it would qualify for close for contract negotiations. I think that we just need to remember that whatever municipality we would be in discussions for, we would be asking them for the full per hour subsidy that we would be providing to North Granville pickups and drop-offs. So yes, we would bring that back in closed for contract negotiations.
Okay, so an interim report before we would go into closed, yes. Okay. Ms. Remming, have you been able to keep track of the multiple changes to the original? Could you read that back to us?
So I can read it back. What I will say is that the amendment proposed by Madam Mayor does need to be agreed to by the mover and seconder if we want to treat this as a friendly amendment, but I will read what I have for now. So that council award NGCS 25-01 transit vehicle tender to Girard, I'm never going to be able to pronounce it, in the amount of $155,500 excluding HST. The council directs staff to set the commuter service fare to $5 for one way for North Granville residents. That council directs staff to discuss expanding NG Transit service to other communities, with an interim report being brought forward to council prior to any contract with neighboring communities, and that council directs staff to identify a commuter service fare premium for stops and/or users outside of the geographical area of North Granville.
So that very last clause, to explore, is that the direction, to explore? Yeah.
Sorry, to explore, are you talking about the commuter service fare?
The very last clause that you read
Yes,
out.
so I have, and that council direct staff to identify, so
Identify.
I was, instead of explore, I was looking more for the opportunity to find like more of a cost analysis, but by all means, I can just put to explore, and that would be, come back to
I
council.
think that, I would prefer that, if there's no objections from the rest of council. No? And is that friendly to the mover? Yes, okay. So any other discussion before I call the question? I'm not going to make you read it again, Madam Clerk. Any other discussion? No? Seeing none, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Great. All right. Moving on. The 2025 mid-year strategic plan and department work plan updates, that multicolored document that you provided us, Ms. Junot. This is yours as well.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, the second report provides a mid-year update on the strategic plan and department work plans. Next slide, please, Mary. Staff had been working on actioning the community strategic plan since its adoption in 2022. As part of the integrated planning process, each department creates an annual department work plan at the start or during the budget cycle around the start of the year, then that each builds on the work of the strategic plan. Next slide, please. So to help folks understand the structure of the attached reports, I thought I'd run through quickly how they feed into each other. So you can see here a snapshot of the current strategic plan, which includes some goals and actions from Pillar 1 regarding environmental sustainability and reducing emissions in particular there in 1.1. Next slide, please. And then in the progress report, you'll see the same goals and actions and their progress and latest update. It's a little difficult to see on this slide here, but in the report, you'll see that the pillars are bolded and the goals are underlined. And you'll also notice that we only report on the lowest level of the plan, so the actions. So that just gives you an idea of what you see here. Next slide, please. And this is a snapshot of the work plan. You can see here that in the Corporate Services Department, we've included creating a climate action plan, which addresses the actions that were shown in the last slide from the strategic plan. Next slide, please. All of these reports and our public dashboard can be found on our website at northgrenville.ca/vision, and the reports shared tonight will be added to the webpage after their adoption by council, and it includes some of our historical documents as well. Next slide, please. And this gives an idea of what the dashboard looks like. The snip I took isn't great. It should show that under each of these pillars are pillars 1, 2, and 3. But you can see the lovely photos that we have at least. So next slide, please. And when you click through one of those pillars, for example, pillar 1, you'll see the associated goals. You can also see at the bottom here that we can add visuals and metrics to each of these pages to help track progress. And if you click through on one of these goals, next slide, please, you'll see the actions that I just showed. And as you can see here, we have some further metrics that are displayed a little bit differently. And then if you click on one of these actions, this is where you'll see, next slide, please, the updates that were included in tonight's report. So that's just a very quick overview. Happy to take any questions. If you have any specific questions about an item in the plan and the associated director isn't here, myself and CAO Dunlop will do our best to answer. And if we don't have an answer, we will pass on the question to the appropriate staff member. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I always find it fascinating to go through these kind of reports and take a pulse of where we are. Sometimes it's very encouraging. Other times it's a little disappointing to see that we're not making much progress in certain areas. But without something like this, it's really hard to take a finger of the pulse of the municipality. So I'll open it up for any questions that staff might have. Or not staff, sorry. Council might have. Madam Mayor.
Well, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Ms. Junot for the tracking. I know it's a complex document. The community strategic plan was something that we as council members, and I think on the staff side, was very well conceived. So it's always, I think, useful to see the highlights. I would think that maybe, and we can work through Ms. Dunlop and yourself, Ms. Janot, there's a few areas where maybe a bit of a deeper dive could be valuable for future discussion at a council meeting. This is a big document. Obviously, we were ambitious as a council and as a municipality in coming up with a strategic framework. So I would suggest that maybe we can regroup and bring back to this table a few areas where I think council may have a particular interest in exploring facets of where we stand as a municipality and where we can go with the remaining time that we have and given some of the momentum for certain files. So just given the size of the document, I just wanted to suggest that as a way of kind of breaking it down into more manageable bits, but certainly, Chair, I don't want to forfeit any other discussion. I would note that there is reference to a council code of conduct, I think, under the clerk's office. I just want to say for the edification of Ms. Dunlop and Ms. Remming at the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, the process for the refresh of a county's council code of conduct was that a subcommittee of county council members was struck, and they worked actually, and I was part of that committee, so 3 of us worked in tandem, I think, with a municipal lawyer at the time to look at the policy. I know we have a policy that's 2016, I think it's older, and we reflected on how relevant that policy was as elected officials. So with that in mind, we were able to generate some of the draft that came before county council later in the first year of when we were elected. So I would encourage us to think about that process for a new or refreshed council code of conduct. I know all sorts of things are happening at the province, but from a process perspective, the participation of elected officials in that deliberation of a new or refreshed council code of conduct was very helpful. So perhaps that's something that we can address offline in terms of how that one particular document, among so many others, comes back to this table.
Great. The temptation is to dive in and get into the weeds on this document, but I don't want to preclude anyone from asking any other questions regarding what Ms. Janot's presented. Go ahead, Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Janot, for the report and the details. And I did go through it, and I do have some questions, but unfortunately, my notes were made on Friday, and I now don't have clarification which document they were about. Page 26 and 27 were activities, and then something else were actions. So I'm going to have to wait till we have an opportunity to come into these in more detail. But I would like the opportunity to go a little deeper in it. But thank you for all your work on reporting this.
Yeah, thank you for contributing that, because I'm in a bit of a dilemma too, because my notes that I made are at home. They're not in my binder. So I'm sure we reach out to Ms. Janot offline and ask questions. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
I'm wondering if we can work with the CEO, Ms. Janot, to organize a deeper dive according to the pillars or according to the department. So to kind of, because we could spend several hours discussing many different facets of this, but if we took one pillar or at least one department where the strategic priorities applied and use that as the basis of discussion as we move forward over the next 3 to 6 months, that might be a meaningful way to kind of reconcile all of the activities against the strategic pillars. So just food for thought in terms of it, maybe how we address this. It's a midsummer evening in July. I know many of us have had exceedingly long days, including staff. So perhaps there's another way to go about this so that we can really engage in that robust dialogue.
I'll defer to our CAO. Is there a way that we can be briefed or have a session dedicated to a deeper dive?
I don't believe I can answer that right now, Mr. Chair, but I will consider our options, and I'll have to get back to you. I can't answer it, sorry.
Because I think there's a desire, at least from Councillor O'Sullivan and myself to find our notes and maybe articulate some questions.
Well, if I
That'd be
might, I do think it's at council's discretion to convene a meeting where this was a primary item. I think it's just a question of timing and how to engage staff and process, absolutely. So,
Sure. Certainly, it's not urgent, but I think it's something that we need to do. So,
sure.
maybe we'll come back and have a discussion with the CAO about timelines and with Ms. Chanot about her availability to come back to us. And are you suggesting this would be a public meeting or yes? Right. Okay. Great. Well, let's have that discussion offline then. Any other questions about Ms. Chanot's report? None? Seeing none? So I will read the recommendation that Council receive the report titled 2025 Mid-Year Strategic Plan and Department Work Plan Update for information purposes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Strakian, and seconded by Councillor Wilson. Yes, a question. Now that it's on the table, we can discuss it.
Might I propose a friendly amendment where we would say, and in addition to the receipt of the information that council wishes to reconvene on the pillars within the strategic priorities framework, of course, in collaboration with staff at the appropriate time.
Councillor Strakian, how does that sound? Yeah? Were you able to capture that? Okay. We'll just, yeah, sorry? Do you have a question?
I just wondered in terms of timeline, if we say by the end of October, is that reasonable?
Not reasonable? It's not reasonable.
I would suggest that maybe we mandate our CEO to
Okay.
have that discussion.
All right. Well, let's not name a date in this friendly amendment. We'll just leave it open for discussion between the CAO and Ms. Chanou and the mayor, I guess. So, Madam Clerk. Yes?
Sorry, I wasn't meaning that we need to have this report changed. We just need an opportunity to ask more detailed questions about certain items in the report, the status of them.
Sure. No, I understood that. But you don't have to put what I was not objecting to, but suggesting that we don't actually name a time. Okay, I'll recognize Councillor Starkey. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I have lost what it is that we're asking. Is it just another opportunity to talk about what's already before us, have a dedicated open session, so we just need to pick a date on the calendar for another open meeting where the only topic is the strategic plan?
Well, I'll ask the clerk to read back the friendly amendment.
I guess that's what I guess before we get to that friendly
Okay,
amendment.
so it's a question to the mayor?
Well, to everybody, because I don't think we're all saying the same thing anymore. Is that all that we need? Is we need another date to just look at what we already have before us and ask questions about that? But going to what the mayor has mentioned previously is that there's a lot to cover, so we actually need more time, so not to have it buried in amongst 10 other items on the agenda. So having perhaps a dedicated session to that topic alone would alleviate that pressure.
Madam
That's certainly
Mayor?
the spirit of my amendment, absolutely. I think it's just a matter of how, but absolutely, that's where.
So let's take that spirit and nail it down into concrete words. How would you phrase that, Councillor Starkey, that friendly amendment?
Well, I mean,
Well, no, I
all
mean-
we're looking to do tonight is to receive the report. I think the receipt of the report is perhaps fine, but we are also seeking another opportunity to bring it back to discuss it in greater detail. So
Okay. Well, that's all we need to add to it, in other words.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think that's what
okay.
we're talking about.
Okay.
So I wasn't expecting that Ms. Janot would have to do any changes to it. We would just have an opportunity to ask more questions in detail about the items on it.
All right. So I'll just wait for Madam Clerk to, have you? Okay, so would you mind reading the friendly amended resolution?
Sure. That council received the report titled 2025 Mid-Year Strategic Plan and Department Work Plan Update for information purposes, and that council wishes to convene an in-depth discussion on each pillar of the strategic plan. I had no date. It was just left open-ended at this point on the basis that we're just having the CAO and the Director of Corporate Services discuss.
Councillor Stracan?
Without putting a date on it, we could say to return to council at, within the next X number of months, because all we're looking for is a date and a meeting time, right? And because it needs to be a discussion and open. Nothing different from tonight, just a lot more questions.
Sure. It's your motion, so.
I'm just asking rest of council and staff if that makes
Okay.
sense to return prior to the end of this year. I guess putting some sort of time limit on it, it's again, no additional reporting required from staff.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. The report before you is the mid-year update in regards to the specific report. So the report as written, as you said, doesn't need to be changed. And the idea is that we have an open discussion in an open forum in regards to the points raised. So the longer we push it back, it's no longer a mid-year report. And we are entering, the season where we don't have as many meetings. Also, the fact that we have staff moving forward in other work plans, et cetera. So I'm struggling in regards to when we would move this forward based on the report as written tonight.
Councillor Stracan?
Deputy Mayor, I would suggest prior to the end of October. That gets us out of the summer session and gives us the first couple months of fall before we start going into talks about next year's budget and whatever else comes before us. But that would still keep it tight enough to the interim or the timing of this report.
I see nodding heads. Okay. So I'll ask you one more time, Madam Clerk, just to read it as
No problem.
discussed.
Through you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, that council received the report titled 2025 Mid-Year Strategic Plan and Department Work Plan Update for information purposes, and that council wishes to convene an in-depth discussion on each pillar of the strategic plan to return to council prior to the end of October 2025.
Okay. All right. I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next report is the Retirement Transition Agreement Program. And who's delivering that report? Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Dunlop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to this specific report, there is a big hole in the middle of the report. We were waiting for the cost impact from Canada Life. So I would ask Council for a deferral until the 16th for this report. Canada Life has indicated that they will have us the information by then, but I think it's a large component for consideration of this report. In essence, the Retirement Transition Agreement Program was to be a recruitment as well as a retention style program to make sure that there is a transfer of corporate knowledge when we have retirees. There is over the next few years, there are a few of them. Over this year, there's a few of them. So the idea is that it is a transition and knowledge retention program. So I will, if it is the will of council, return on the 16th with a full and robust program.
Great. So if council agrees, we can accept that deferral. Any discussion about the suggested deferral? No? Yes? I need a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you mind if I get a motion
Yes.
to defer?
Yeah, so that was my next question. Can somebody move for deferral? Madam Mayor, congratulations. You get a chance to move something. But you'll need a seconder. Councillor O'Sullivan, great. So the resolution is to defer the report on the transition agreement program till July 16th. Correct? Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor? Great, it's passed. And next, we have a report on the Advisory Committee resolutions and notice of motions summary. And that's coming from you.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So tonight in your package, there is a condensed, almost all-inclusive package from Advisory Committee, significant resolutions that have either risen to SLT or to Council, as well as the notice motions that have been brought forward at this table. It is a chart that has many facets, and from the strategic alignment is assigned to many pillars. So I would leave the charts and actions for discussion around this table, as well as I have highlighted some items that are ongoing in regards to master plans, or that at this point in time have not moved forward or have been completed. So, Mr. Chair, I leave it to this table for discussion purposes.
Thank you very much. And thank you for pulling that all together in one spreadsheet. It's very instructive, I think, for the rest of council to know what has been happening with other advisory committees, for sure, and what's been happening to notices of motions. So I will open it up to the rest of council to ask any questions regarding this. Sorry? Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, to interrupt. I just wanted to advise members of council that there was a glitch in the agenda software system that prevented the 2024 Advisory Committee significant resolutions from uploading last week. I apologize, as I took an extended weekend and didn't realize until this morning. So I have supplied council with the spreadsheet for the 2024 Advisory Committee significant resolutions as part of your agenda package in front of you this evening, and it will be posted as part of the minutes once adopted by council. Thank you.
Comments? Questions from council? Yes, Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I believe that the Health, Wellness, Fitness, Active Transportation Committee made a recommendation for the naloxone kits, and I don't believe that's been actioned yet, but it's not on this resolution. However, it may have come as a notice of motion. Yeah, okay, thank you. And we are going to have discussions about that offline in the future.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure, go ahead.
About that specific, yes, it has risen to the council table a couple times at this point in history. The naloxone kits are, and all training has been fully operational for the fire department, but no further action in regards to implementing an education program for any other areas of the municipal staff complement have been completed. And in discussion with legal counsel, we would look at having an education program that would provide the knowledge base to municipal staff to determine whether or not they voluntarily wish to participate in a naloxone program or not. So that is the one of the next steps that we are undertaking, and we will again be utilizing the health unit as our experts.
Thank you. Councillor O'Sullivan?
Sorry.
Yeah.
On this 2024 one, the first one is Accessibility Advisory Committee, and it was regarding the crosswalks on Prescott Street and the courtesy crosswalks in particular. It was discussed several times at the Active Transportation, at the Accessibility, as well as Active Transportation Advisory Committees, and felt that the courtesy signs were very confusing. Some pedestrians thought it meant that the crosswalk was a safe place to use as a crosswalk, and yet drivers thought it meant kind of stop if you feel like it. And so having the courtesy sign was not enforceable, and we had suggested that they be taken down, that the courtesy signs be taken down, and that was in the notes, but it still hasn't happened. The new crosswalk at Asa Street is now a formal lit PXO, but the one down at Reuben is not and still has a courtesy sign. So I think the committee would be pleased to see that courtesy sign taken down.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The one at Reuben South is part of the Public Works Capital Program for 2025. We are also working in conjunction with potentially the Legion as a bumped up but fully legal, non-courtesy, but an absolute mandatory crosswalk at that location. So we will, as part of the capital plan, we will report back.
Any other questions, Councillor O'Sullivan? No? You brought your notes this time. Yes. Other council colleagues, any questions regarding this report or this chart of resolutions and notice of motions? None? I'm only on one advisory committee, and I sent you, oh, yes, one more. Go ahead, Councillor O'Sullivan.
Sorry. The columbarium was a notice of motion on June 4th, 2024, so a year and a bit ago. It was passed in September, though. It wasn't passed till September. And I do see that there's an update for September of 2025, and hopefully that will still be enough time to go forward and have it actioned in 2025.
Ms. Dunlop? Oh, there we go. Ms. Remy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at this point, the issue has been resourcing because the department that has received that direction is understaffed. Sadly, what I can say at this point is that, yes, September 2025 is likely a little late in the game to install a columbarium in time for 2025, but the plan is to come to council in September of this year with a path forward that the clerk's office feel is suitable so that we can make up for the lost time while still achieving council's direction. Unfortunately, that's the best update I have at this time. September has just been identified as a reasonable timeline to try to bring this forward to council given the resourcing pressures we currently have.
Thank you, and I appreciate the workload issues and the lack of resources, so I appreciate that. I'm happy to see this report so that we know that things haven't kind of fallen off the back burner. Thank you.
Is your hand up, Councillor Stark? No, sorry. Okay. Looking for cues here. I have a question to the CAO. Given the resource challenges, and I understand that that had an impact on resolutions from the Arts, Culture and Heritage Advisory Committee rising to council, is there anything on the books, any policy that we have that can assist some of the installations happening this year? Because I understand from that spreadsheet that we won't have a report or we won't have anything rising to council until the end of this year. And coincidentally, there's 3 murals that I know of that are being considered and a sculpture. Is there anything that we have that can guide some of these organizations in terms of installation, maintenance, and, you know, is there anything that we have in the interim we can use to guide these various organizations that are wanting to erect murals or sculptures downtown or anywhere in North Grenville?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is, I know that Ms. Junot is working in regards to the installation of the sculpture in the downtown. We also have a mural installation, Maggie Boyer and her group, through a grant through the program. Looking for a location, which will be within this building. They're the two that I'm currently aware of that are moving forward. I do have the arts policy draft. Thank you very much for providing it, as I didn't have it in my list of documents to review. So I can't speak to that because I haven't unfortunately read it yet.
Yeah. Would you draw certain elements before council had an opportunity to pass the policy, the public art policy? Would you draw from that draft document in order to guide some of these organizations in terms of ownership, maintenance, installation, decommissioning, all that kind of stuff?
In regards to the art installations that are provided for with other grant programs, yes, absolutely. I would think that that is an agreement that has been signed when they get the grant money for certain installations, and also through the individual committees that have their own budget. But until I review the art policy itself, and unfortunately, again, it seems to be a common theme, but resourcing has been a big issue. But I don't think I can specifically answer your question.
And the reserve that at the last minute I pushed for, and I believe, of $37,500 dedicated this year to art installations. What happens to that money if it's not spent this year? Does that carry over?
Thank you for the question. It depends whether it's operating in capital, and of course, that can always be a direction of council. Should that 37.5 not be spent, we can take direction from council to put it in a reserve for that specific purpose moving forward. So I would ask that when we get into the fall session, that I will have reviewed, be able to answer your question, and I can provide a recommendation in regards to those funds.
Great, thank you. That's it from me. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution and look for a mover and a seconder. The council receives the advisory committee resolutions and notice of motion summary report number NAO dash, I think that's NG. NO period. CAO, there we go. It's okay. It's, everybody's busy. I guess there's no spell check for that, is there? Once again, the council receives the advisory committee resolutions and notice of motion summary, report number CAO-2005-023 for information. And thank you once again, Ms. Dunlop, for pulling that together. It's a very helpful document. So do I have a mover for that motion, that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and seconded by Councillor O'Sullivan. Okay. Any further discussion or questions regarding this resolution? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence? No? Motions and notice of motions. Any notice of motions this evening? Seeing none, there's an item under unfinished business regarding the heavy rescue apparatus procurement. And a recommendation to be deliberated depending on the outcome of the closed session at 5, and that is operational, is it? Okay, so the recommendation is that council approves the reallocation of capital funds previously approved under NGFS 24-01 mini rescue project to support the associated costs with the direction provided to staff in closed session regarding the heavy rescue apparatus procurement. Do I have a mover for this? Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and a seconder? Councillor Strakian. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any email questions from the public or the media? Because I don't see that many people in the live here. Okay. So we move on to the confirmation bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 60-25 to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on July 8th, 2025 be adopted and passed. Moved by Councillor Starkian, seconded by Councillor O'Sullivan. All in favor? Motion's carried. And moving on to adjournment. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council adjourn at 8:29 p.m. Moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Strakian. No discussion, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you very much, everybody, for putting up with me.